Hi everybody, I'm Ranger Mattison. Welcome to Badlands, if nobody's welcomed you yet. Who's here for the first time? Oh wow, that's a lot of you guys. What do you think so far? Are we as bad as they say?
Oh yeah. In a good way.
Bad in a good way, I like that.
Yeah.
All right, well, Badlands is known for a lot of things. I mean, we've got these beautiful rock formations that clearly you've all been driving through and seeing, but those rock formations are absolutely filled with fossils. And we cover a really unique time period here at Badlands on our fossil record, and we're actually one of the richest fossil beds in the world. So, I'm going to walk us through a little bit of our Badlands geologic, paleontologic story today. And I do like to think of it as a little bit of a storybook, where we have different chapters, right, for our different rock formations. So, we're going to start with the oldest and therefore deepest rock formation we have, and that is in chapter 1 of our story. That's called the Pier Shale. If you were at my program last night, like some of you were, you learned quite a bit about the Pier Shale, so no spoilers for everyone else.
Yeah, right. We'll keep
So the Pier Shale, which by the way I know it's spelled Pierre, it's actually pronounced Pier because we're in the Midwest when things are weird. The capital of South Dakota is also pronounced Pier. There's a lot of Pier Shale there, hence the name. So the Pier Shale is full of fossils. But right here where we're standing, it's still about 250, maybe like 350 feet below us right now. It hasn't been eroded down to on the east side of the park. If you're driving further west, you'll see it, especially if you head out to the Sage Creek Rim Road in the wilderness area, which by the way is also where the bison are, for the most part.
Sage Creek.
Sage Creek. Yeah. So, in the Pier Shale, I'm going to tell you guys about a few of the fossils we find in that layer, and then you're going to tell me what the environment looked like at the time. Sound good? All right. Up first, we've got, I like to start with this one. What does that look like?
Shell.
Shell. Lamb, right? Yeah. So, this is an easy place to start because whether they are 72 million years old or whether you pulled it out of the ocean yesterday, clams look like clams. And this clam is kind of a unique clam. It's part of a clam family called the Inoceremus clams. And they don't exist anymore. Even though it looks like clams we have today, this type of clam went extinct about 66 million years ago. And the really cool thing about these guys is that certain individuals have been found in the fossil record that are 6.5 feet in diameter. Ooh. So just imagine the tallest person you know, but as a clam, you'll get an idea of what we're talking about here. That is a very large clam. And we also have things in the Pier Shale like these other shelled critters. So these are kind of spiral, this one is a spiral shelled squid-like creature called an ammonite. Has anybody heard of these before?
Yes.
A lot of people have heard of ammonites. Ammonites are super cool. They're super helpful too. Paleontologists love ammonites because they are what we call an index fossil. And that means that they diversify and evolve so rapidly that the presence of different species of ammonites in different layers of rock can tell us how old that rock is, which is something we like to figure out. So we've got clams, we've got ammonites. The cousin to the ammonite is the baculite. It's the same concept, squid in a shell, but in this case the shell is a cone shape instead of a spiral. And then the other fossil I like to highlight from the Pier Shale is this bad boy right here.
Ooh.
That is partial lower jaw of a mosasaur. Mosasaurs are usually a crowd favorite. Depending on the species, an adult mosasaur could be anywhere from 3 feet, 4 feet in length to 50. Some people argue 60 feet in length. That is the size of a school bus. So, what do you think? Size of a school bus, wicked sharp teeth coming at you?
Wow. Yeah, you're done.
Yeah, not so fun, right? And now, mosasaurs are often an animal that people confuse for dinosaurs. We actually don't have any dinosaur fossils here at Badlands, not even one. Mosasaurs are actually reptiles, most closely related to Komodo dragons, monitor lizards, and snakes. So based on the information I've given you guys so far, I bet you can come to a conclusion about what the environment looked like here. What do we think? Water, wet, right? We were in a marine environment, and it looked a little something like this.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I see that fossil is
Exactly, that's our ammonite, there's our mosasaur. This was what we looked like 75 to 69 million years ago at Badlands. Pretty different than what we have today, right? Yeah.
Like zero.
So,
We're like,
this was considered one of the most dangerous seas to ever exist. And this was called the Western Interior Seaway. It stretched all the way from the Arctic Circle down through the Gulf of Mexico and essentially split the continent in two for a while. Right here at Badlands, we would have been under about 400 meters of water.
Wow.
They call it a shallow inland sea, but 400 meters is still pretty significant. And the environment at the time would have been, of course, marine, but it would have also been kind of tropical, like the Gulf of Mexico is today. Pretty warm environment going on here.
not even hot too.
Mm-hmm. And something happened, right? Because we're not underwater anymore. Anybody have any theories about where this seaway went? Where did it all go? Any ideas? I've stumped you guys already?
Glaciers.
Glaciers? I like this idea. You're bordering on something. Yes, yes. Ice Age? Ice Age was about 66 million years after this.
Yeah.
Much more recent, yeah.
Continent
Continent.
pushed together and
Yeah, there we
drained
go.
it all out.
So we've got two correct answers here, in a way. We'll start with tectonics. As the plates move around and build mountains and do different things like that, land gets shifted, right? So a little thing called the Rocky Mountains happened. And the Rocky Mountains, they built up, and it didn't only impact the area where they are, it also impacted the land to the east and west. So our land got kind of raised up a little bit. We didn't get crumpled into mountains, just raised up. And at the same time, glaciers were forming at the north and south poles for the first time in a long time. Almost your part of the answer. And so that was using up a lot of our seawater and decreasing global sea level. So if the land's going up and the sea level's going down, what's going to happen? It's going to be above water. So the seaway receded to the north and to the south, and then we were no longer underwater. And I say it like it's a really, simple all of a sudden kind of thing. It took hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years for that to totally go away. So that is chapter 1 of our story. Do we feel good about chapter 1?
Yeah.
All right, that's good. Any questions so far about chapter 1? Okay, well then let's check out chapter 2. Well, before I get on to chapter 2, the Yellow Mounds is above the pure shale. If anyone's driven further west in the park, you've seen that bright yellow rock formation. It's pretty amazing, right? Don't see a lot of yellow rock. Which, by the way, if anyone's heading to Yellowstone next, tell them we have Yellowstone. I'm trying
It's
to
called
start
Yellow Mounds.
Yellow
Wait, to see
Mounds.
from here? I haven't seen the yellow rock
If you
yet.
drive this way in the park, you'll see it in about 25 minutes of driving.
Ah.
Yeah.
Maybe on the way back we'll get to go.
And the Yellow Mounds I like to lump in with chapter 1 because
I wanna
even though they
pet a
look very
prairie
different
dog.
from the pure shale, the Yellow Mounds are the top of the pure shale formation. They were altered after the fact. When that seaway receded, pure shale was exposed to the air for the first time, and there's a weird iron mineral in there that essentially rusted, but it turned yellow instead of red. Kind of a strange phenomenon there, but super cool to see. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is right here.
And yellow.
Do you guys see this dashed line? So the exact contact, the very line between the top of the Yellow Mounds and the bottom of the formation above it, called the Shadron Formation, that is chapter 2. Because that line represents 32 million years of missing time. Not recorded in our rock record here at Badlands. It's what we call an unconformity. It sounds kind of strange, but this actually happens all the time, especially in sedimentary rock, like we have here. What that means is that during that stretch of 32 million years, probably some rock was created, but it was also eroded away. And we have nothing left from that time period. And that's a little bit confusing. I'm going to circle back to that at the end, because once we cover the rest of this, it's going to make a lot more sense. Sound good? But for right now, let's just think of it as chapter 1. Chapter 2 is gone, torn out. We don't have chapter 2.
Wow.
So we skip immediately to chapter 3. That's our Shadron Formation. Shadron Formation is a really fun one too, and nowadays you'll see it as the gray rolling hills off in the park. And there's one fossil. All you need to know is one fossil from the Shadron Formation, and you guys will be able to tell me exactly what our environment looked like here 37 to 34 million years ago. Because we had alligator fossils. So what do we think? What do we look like? Swampy, yeah, swampy, humid. I usually compare it to modern day Florida.
I was about to say Florida.
Yeah, Florida, yeah. We looked a little something like this. Way more trees, leafy plants, swampier area. And do you guys see this guy right here? This big old creature off to the side? That is another important animal, like the alligator, that we only find in the Shadron Formation. We only see this animal present in the kind of swampy environment that we have here. And that animal is called a brontothere.
Whoa.
Brontotheres are pretty neat. And I'm going to show you a brontothere fossil. So this is just a piece of a brontothere.
Oh my goodness.
Does anybody have any idea what part of the body this is?
The foot.
Rib?
Rib?
Oh, with the teeth?
Teeth.
Oh,
I heard
it's
the
got
answer
teeth.
You're
Okay.
correct, except
Jaw.
that it is tooth. It's just one tooth.
That's
Look at that. That is a large animal. So, brontotheres were the largest mammal to ever walk here at Badlands. And they weighed about 7,000 pounds. And they look a lot like what? What do they look like? A rhino, right?
Rhino,
It's got
yeah.
this weird branching horns at the front of its face. It looks a lot like a rhino. And it is part of that larger rhino family, but they're actually more closely related to modern horses. Paleontology is tricky that way. Sorry, it's getting a little loud. But the brontothere is a really important fossil here at Badlands because way back in 1848, the first fossil ever described for Badlands, written down, was found. And it was a brontothere fossil. It was a piece of a jaw about this big, so it had 3 teeth. And it was written down in 1848, and that was 12 years before anyone ever found a dinosaur in North America. 12 years. So, yeah, dinosaurs, whatever. Mammals are cooler, okay? So the brontothere is a pretty important fossil for us here at Badlands. Also, they're just cool, right? And they're the symbol of the Shadron Formation along with alligators. We do not see them after that. They actually go extinct. So, after that, that's chapter 3. After that, I like to lump the rest of our formations into chapter 4 because from the Shadron Formation and above, we are experiencing a cooling and drying trend over time, where we are going from a swampy environment to a more open woodland, to a scrubland, to eventually evolving the grasslands ecosystem for the very first time. So this chapter I would title The American Serengeti, right? We're evolving the grassland for the very first time. The first step is that we are moving away from the swampy environment. So we start looking a little something like this. We got more open spaces, fewer trees, more grass. And right here in front, this is a watering hole, right? That's getting kind of muddy because perhaps the climate was drying out. They were going into drought. And this art has a really cool story. It's all based on one site here at Badlands, and it is the most famous fossil find, well, one of two, of the most famous fossil find ever documented here at Badlands. And it was reported by a visitor, 2 visitors, back in 1993. So do you guys know what to do if you find a fossil in the Badlands?
Turn it in.
Take a picture. Boom, boom. I love it. Leave it exactly where it is. Take a picture if you want to be extra good. If you want to get A+. Put something for scale in your photos. Take photos of the surrounding landscape too, and get GPS coordinates. And then you can either come report it to us at the visitor center, or you can email your fossil finds in. And if anybody's interested, I have all of that info on these nifty little sheets. And just as a little added, not bribe, but incentive, we'll call it an incentive, you will get a super cool fossil finder patch if you find a fossil, and you get your photo on the wall of fame in our paleontology lab. So keep an eye out. We have fossil reports every day. I think today we've already had 3 or 4.
Oh, wow.
Every single day. We are one of the richest fossil beds in the world.
Where do they get them? From over here?
Anywhere and everywhere in the park has potential. The most important thing is to leave it right where it is, and then come tell us about it. Yeah. So, back in 1993, 2 visitors were walking around, and they saw 3 bones sticking out of the ground. Just 3. They looked like leg bones, and so they did the right thing. They left it. They reported it. Our paleontologists went out there and they started digging. And the fun thing about paleontology is that when you start digging, you never know when you're going to stop. Because sometimes you dig up one thing and it leads to another and another and another, right? And in this case, it led to 15 summers worth of digging.
Wow.
Yeah. 15 summers. They excavated an area the size of a tennis court, and they pulled out more than 19,000 bones
Wow.
from this one site that is interpreted as a watering hole in a drying climate. So as the Water was drying up, drought was coming in, these animals were, waiting around for water, perhaps getting stuck in some mud, maybe some predators were coming along saying, that looks like an easy meal, and then getting stuck themselves. But the majority of what we found at this site is this animal right here. This is an entelodon of the genus Archaeotherium, more affectionately known as the Big Pig. So we call that site the Big Pig Dig. And it's one of our most famous stories here, as I mentioned, but the big pigs are really fascinating creatures, too, just by themselves, right? So what do you guys think? Are they carnivores, herbivores, what?
Carnivore.
Carnivore, right? What about these?
The both.
Trick question.
There are both.
Both. It's an omnivore.
Yeah. Yeah.
We imagine that these guys are probably scavengers, considering the way that their teeth are set up, eating just about everything out here. So, terrifying wild boar-like creature coming at you on this ancient landscape, you probably would not be too happy. And this is a small one. So I found one not too long ago in the eastern side of the park where the canine is about this tall, no exaggeration. So these things could get up to the size of small bison.
Wow.
But this site was such an impactful and important find because it gave us essentially a window into what it looked like exactly like 33 million years ago. And we're actually working on another quarry dig right now. And unfortunately it's in a really remote section of the park, so we aren't able to bring visitors out there with us. But I wanted to tell you guys about it today, because it's of a similar density, bone density, to the Big Pig Dig. There are just as many bones in this new site. But instead of being big pigs, it's mostly this guy.
Oh, there's like a horse.
Mesohippus. Yeah, everybody identified it correctly. It's a horse, right? But okay, horses today. If you had to take a guess at like how big a horse skull is, what would you say?
Big.
Think that big? They're pretty big. So here's a Mesohippus skull. These are teeny tiny little horses, about 3 feet tall.
No way.
Yeah, and Mesohippus means middle horse. We call them that because when horses first evolved, they had 5 toes on each foot. These horses have 3. Horses today have 1, exactly.
The hoof, yeah.
Yeah. These horses and rhinos and tapirs all belong to this group called the odd-toed hoofed mammals, or if you want the fancy word, perissodactyls. And basically, as they evolved, especially with horses, they were becoming more specialized for running, which, by the way, keys us into what's happening with our environment, right? We're getting more open spaces, horses are evolving more towards running, but they started with 5, and 5 toes on each foot, and then when you evolve, you have, a line of symmetry, right? Bodies like to maintain symmetry. So the symmetry is down the middle digit in this case. So then they went down to 3. And then after that, after the record here at Badlands, they go down to 1. I'm not going to demonstrate that. But there's another group called the even-toed hoof mammals. They start with 4. So the symmetry is down in between digits 2 and 3.
Okay.
So they can evolve down to 2, but not much else. You're not going to evolve down to 0 toes, right? That would be not so good. All right, so horses. Oh, and horses do a really fascinating thing. A lot of people don't realize horses evolved in North America. But then in the Ice Age, so much, much after all of this stuff we're talking about, they actually crossed over the land bridge in Alaska and into Asia, where they kind of spread out across Asia and Europe. And they actually go extinct here for a while in North America. And then they were reintroduced when Europeans came across the Atlantic. So horses are world travelers, of the northern hemisphere at least. And I like to think of it as more like they went on a few thousand-year vacation, essentially, because they were here for a lot longer than they weren't. So they are native to North America. Kind of cool. Another thing you might not think of as native to North America is this guy right here. What does that look like?
Cougar? Not cougar, puma.
I heard it right there. A dog. This is
Oh.
the world's first ever dog. Right here.
Oh my goodness.
So cute, right? This guy is called Hesperocyon. And it's the first dog in the fossil record ever. And he weighed about 4 pounds, probably. Pretty tiny little dog. And there's another really unique thing about this dog. Based on the bones in their limbs and wrists, we know that they were able to do this motion. Dogs today can't do that. Cats can. That's why cats are good climbers. Why we can climb a tree. So there's a hypothesis that this dog was a tree climbing dog. He's the first dog ever. So every dog evolved from this guy. So you get 3 distinct lineages. First, the Hesperocyanines, named after this guy. They're extinct, we don't have them anymore. Second, we've got the Borophages. They are the bone-crushing dogs. We don't have them anymore either. Maybe for the best for us. And then we have the canines, who we all know and love, right? And so dog diversity today is actually kind of low. We don't have that many dogs. We used to have a lot more. And at a certain point in the rock record here at Badlands, we have 13 species of dogs existing all at the same time. Now let's put that in context. Every dog you've ever met is all the same species. Unless you've met like a coyote or a fox or a wolf, that's different. But every domestic dog is all the same species. Different breeds, sure. Same species. So we had 13 species living together in an ecosystem. How does that work? Well, they were doing things that dogs today don't do. They were occupying other niches, other jobs in the ecosystem. So this was our tree climbing dog. We also had one that was acting like a raccoon. Dogs doing all sorts of stuff. Some were specializing more towards eating berries. Interesting stuff like that, yeah. And then, you know, let's say we take our raccoon example. Raccoons, true raccoons evolve, come along, outcompete these guys. Perhaps that's why they go extinct. So we actually have a huge number of dogs, and then we watch the diversity go back down again. And that's actually unpublished information, by the way, insider info. One of our paleontologists is working on writing up all of the fossil dogs from Badlands right now. So that'll be super cool. There's a lot left to learn in our fossil record here. And if we talk about dogs, we gotta talk about who? Cats, right? Take a look at that guy right there. Yeah, who does that look like?
Cheetah.
Cheetah? See those big old teeth in the front? Does that remind you guys of saber-toothed tiger, right? So, saber-toothed tigers came along in the Ice Age, which the Ice Age was like yesterday. Ice Age is super recent, only like a million years ago. This is about 30 million years old, and I told you, we talked about dogs, we gotta talk about cats. I lied to you a little bit. It's not a cat. This animal looks and acts a lot like a cat. But, I mean, yeah, looks like a cat, right? But, actually, a totally different group called the nimrabids. It's a different type of carnivore that we don't have anymore. And it's a great example of a phenomenon called convergent evolution. And that just means that when 2 different types of animals are occupying the same jobs in the ecosystem, they oftentimes end up looking a lot alike. So if we go back to our raccoon-like dog, guess what he looks like? A lot like a raccoon when you reconstruct them. So this animal looks a lot like a cat. If we saw it walking towards us right now, we'd be like, that's a cat. Then we'd all probably run away screaming, right? Because it has the teeth. And it occupies the same role in the ecosystem, which in this case was, of course, murder. And this skull, this actual skull, has a very, very important story. I told you the most famous fossil find from Badlands, maybe the pig dig. This one rivals it. This is maybe the most famous fossil find here at Badlands, also reported by a visitor. 7-year-old girl, back in 2012.
Oh my goodness.
She was walking around behind the visitor center. Right behind the visitor center.
God.
And she reported a fossil. She saw these 2 bones right here and this bone right here sticking out of the ground, as well as one of these teeth. Just the very end of it. So our paleontologists got super excited. We don't see nimrabids very often. So they go out there and they excavate it, and you know, she did the exact right thing, left it, took photos, reported it to us, and as soon as they excavated it, they were like, wow, this is amazing, beautifully intact. And then they started to clean it up in the fossil preparation lab, and they started noticing something weird. You guys see those 2 holes right there? Right below my fingers? Those aren't supposed to be there. They're not on this side. So the paleontologists then realized that those holes line up exactly with those teeth.
Oh
So,
my
with
goodness.
one fossil find, we solved a 32-million-year-old murder mystery.
Whoa.
This individual, we know how this individual died. By the way, I keep saying this one. This is not real. They would not let me pick the real thing out. The real one is in the fossil preparation lab on display. Definitely recommend checking it out. But this is a great replica that we've got going on here. So, if you're taking a look at some of the art we have here for the nimrabids, see how that one's biting into the skull of the other? That's not made up. That's based on evidence that we have. So, and the bite marks line up to teeth from a slightly different species. Same family, different species. Probably speaks to, interspecies competition. Maybe they were very territorial. We can begin to learn about a 32-million-year-old animal's behavior from just one fossil find. So that just goes to show how important every single find has the potential to be. This one was pretty amazing. So we refer to this thing as Kylie's cat, because Kylie was the girl who found it, but it's not technically a cat, as we now learn. That is a pretty amazing one. And I will close this off today with one last Badlands staple. That is this creature right here, the Oreodont. Has anyone heard of this before today? No. That is normally the answer. Oreodonts are weird. They are the most common fossil find here at Badlands, though. If you're out there looking around and you find something, or your friend finds something, you want to sound smart, they say, what do you think it is? Say Oreodont. 90% of the time you're going to be right. And if you want to remember that, let's break down the name, right? Oreo. Oreo does not mean cookie, it actually means mountain. And dont means tooth, like orthodontist.
Yeah.
So mountain tooth. We'll take a look at our Oreodont skull here. The teeth kind of look like a little mountain range to somebody, whoever named these things a while ago. We're getting creative with the names. We like it.
Wow.
So if you're out there looking for fossils, Oreodont is probably what you'll come across. And you can see there's some of the rock right here. The bone is very similar color. It's going to be shinier, it's going to fracture differently. If you train your eyes to look for it, you'll find it. But the teeth really stick out, right? They're dark brown or black in color every time. So those really are kind of contrasting to our rock formations around us. And Oreodonts are weird. I'm going to keep circling back to that. They're weird. They existed from about 40 million years ago until about 5 million years ago. So they're in every formation from the Shadron, the Brule, and the Sharps. Sharps Formation, by the way, is the only name I think makes sense besides the Yellow Mountains, because it's at the top and it's sharp. So, all of these layers, and they only go extinct about 5 million years ago. By the way, that's a sentence only a geoscientist will say to you, only 5 million years ago. But it actually is pretty recent, all things considered. And even despite that, we don't know who their closest living descendants are today. We're not sure. We're still studying them and still learning. But we like to call them our deer, sheep, camel, pigs, because they remind us a little bit of everything. And they're part of that even-toed hoofed mammal group that we talked about. Those are called the artiodactyls. And Oreodonts are super, super diverse. They range in size from the size of a house cat to the size of a cow, depending on the species. So there's tons of them. And I had a group of friends who are paleontologists who decided they were going to be the ones to write down all of the Oreodonts. They were going to write a paper, write down every single species, combine some, add new ones, and they were going to write down all of the defining characteristics in one place, so that paleontologists can stop being confused about Oreodonts, because paleontologists are confused about Oreodonts. They finally published it last fall. It took a while. It's a casual 260 pages. There's a lot of Oreodonts. They didn't even get them all in that book. So,
Or by their nest. That's why
Oreodonts are a pretty fascinating thing we've got here at Badlands, and they're kind of, if we had to choose one motto from the fossil, or one, mascot from the fossil record, we'd probably choose Oreodonts, just because they're absolutely everywhere. But I just wanted to emphasize with that, and with our Kylie cat story, and all of these different things we've learned so recently, with the new horse story, with the dogs, there's still a lot we're learning, all the time. All the time. Paleontology, geology, they're not dead sciences, especially here at Badlands. So we've got so much left to learn, and every fossil find has the potential to be super important. And I promised we would circle back at the end to this little line right here. I told some folks earlier, this is called unconformity. It represents 32 million years of missing time, not recorded in our rock record here. So it makes a lot more sense when you look at the rest of these formations. The Shadron, the Brule, the Sharps, they built up between 37 and 28 million years ago. When the Black Hills uplifted, they started eroding. And that sediment was carried out here via wind, water, and gravity, and redeposited in these nice, vast layers, building up, building up, building up, over about 10 million years. And then, about 500,000 years ago, erosion kicked in. And that's when these started being carved out. So we've only had 500,000 years of erosion acting on this place so far. That's also, by the way, why we can't be considered mountains, because these weren't tectonically built up, they were carved out. So they're called Badlands formations. And every rock around the world, rock formations that look like this around the world, are all called Badlands formations. But we were the first, just for the record. We're the original Badlands. But all of these built up for 10 million years. We've had 500,000 years of erosion so far. We're still eroding at about an inch per year on average across the park. May not sound like a ton, but the Black Hills to the west of us erode 1 inch every 10,000 years. We're 1 inch almost every year, because this rock was never buried long enough to become hard and compact like we think of rocks being. So they say we only have another 500,000 years left. Badlands will be totally gone in another 500,000 years. So good job getting here in time. You did it. So think about that. 10 million years to build up. 500,000 so far, another 500,000 will be entirely gone. We'll call that 11 million years to build all the way up and entirely go away. So if we have 32 million years of missing time, that could have happened a few times over. We could have had past iterations of this landscape that we will never know about because we don't have anything preserved from that time. There are places like Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota that do preserve rock from that time. And they have rocks that are kind of similar to ours afterwards. So we can kind of begin to learn a little bit about what our environment might look like. But I always like to end with that because, again, there's a lot left to learn here at Badlands. And I don't want to hold you guys hostage for too long because I clearly could talk about fossils forever. But thank you for joining me. I'm Ranger Mattison. If you want to hold a fossil, if you've never done it, I highly recommend. Anyone's allowed to come up here, grab a fossil, but let's use 2 hands and keep it over the wood, not over the concrete. All right?
You have to hold this stuff.
Thank you, guys.